What's going on, snipers, and welcome back to our National Players Throwback 2000 franchise mode here in NHL 24. So in last episode, we had the second round against the Calgary Flames, and unfortunately it didn't really go to plan, and our team got eliminated in the second round, but I was okay with it just because obviously this was a year that we didn't really expect to make the playoffs anyways, but we managed to make it out of at least round one. But round two, you can see we got swept. We just did not find ourselves. Game one, getting shut out 5-0. Game two, getting shut out only 1-0, so at least it was a bit better of a defensive effort, but we got shut out in back-to-back games to start the series, which is definitely not a great thing, especially on home ice. Then we lost 5-2 on the road, and in our final game in the series, we had our closest game where we lost 4-3 in overtime. So unfortunately, we got swept, but I think obviously at least it was some good experience for some of the younger guys on the team like Scott Hartnell, so hopefully they could take that going forward in their NHL careers. But anyways, we're up here in the 2002 NHL draft looking to probably draft some more good prospects. And then obviously, we're probably going to trade away some players in this episode and also some picks in this episode to try and build up our reputation for the 2003 draft. Because the 2003 draft, we want to have as much picks as possible in that draft potentially. So that way we could draft a lot of really good players in it. So I'm hoping that obviously we can make some good moves to make sure that we get some good picks in next year's draft as well. Because next year's draft is definitely going to be the one that sets the world on fire. And then afterwards, there's no more prospect drafts. Unfortunately, it'll just be all generated players. But anyways, before we get into the 2002 draft and also the Resign stage, let's get into your guys' comments now and see what you guys have to say about last episode. So the first comment is from Jared the Rabbit, who says, Calgary used trapped, it's super effective. Nashville used goal, it's not very effective. Calgary used sweeped, it's super effective. Nashville has fainted. And of course, he has to give like the Pokemon reference. But yeah, that was basically how the series has went against the Calgary Flames. That we scored some goals, but it didn't really work at all. And then Calgary used sweep and yeah, just basically knocked us completely out. So unfortunately, we lost that series, but like I said, good experience for a lot of the guys on this roster. The next comment is from Senator Taco. Says, you were playing with house money this round, so the results were neither surprising nor disappointing. Bring up Spezza and Erat to the NHL, put DiPietro as your starting goalie, and rev up those tanks. And that's an interesting idea about potentially running DiPietro as our starter next season. If we decide to do so, that would mean trading away Thomas Vokoun this offseason, which I'm not opposed to, but I would like to maybe hold on to him for a few more years in a sense too, because that's why we locked him up on like a 4-year deal. So I don't know if DiPietro will be the starter next year. Maybe we could do that. It just really depends on, I guess, what we decide to do and what we could potentially get for somebody like Vokoun. And then like he was saying, we also might be able to play Jason Spezza next season, which will be exciting. He didn't get any growth being unsigned, so I think obviously signing him and then putting him in the NHL next year is probably what we're going to lean towards doing. So that way we'd have him down the middle, and we probably would like let go of somebody like Bordeleau or not Archipov, of course, because he's RFA, but probably like Bordeleau or Mike Watt would probably end up leaving in the offseason. Tom Fitzgerald is a maybe, but it depends on if we could get him signed or not. We could also use Fitzgerald as a winger too, so maybe I'll still hold on to Tom just because he's a decent like kind of two-way forward, and he also gives us a little bit more depth on that right-hand side. The next comment is from Michael Dose, who says, congrats on hitting 3K subscribers. You deserve more as you do a great job entertaining, and thank you, man. I appreciate that. Thank you all you guys who have supported this channel over the years or over the last few days or weeks or whatever. I didn't really expect to hit 3K this soon because we were kind of at a stage where we weren't growing super crazy fast, but now all of a sudden we've been picking up a little bit more momentum as of late, so I appreciate you guys, and yeah, let's keep on rolling to 4K, 5K, and eventually to like 10K or something like that, because that would be awesome. The next comment is from Flame Husky, who says, well, I guess our team went out in flames. You were talking about potentially tanking for next season to get good picks, but the best way to sabotage your team is to fire all your good NHL coaches and replace them with a bunch of bums and hacks. I'm talking about the very lowest rated coaches available just for one season. So that might be something we do. I don't really like cheesing it too much with the coaches and stuff like that involved, but we could end up doing that if we really want to in the next episode, because all of our coaches of 1 year left except for a couple of the AHL ones. So yeah, maybe I'll just let them go, and then we could look in the next episode and find the worst coaches possible to replace these guys with. And then it'll be only for 1 year. Hopefully a lot of guys don't have morale problems because of the coaches, but hopefully that makes us not simulate too well. And then obviously we could maybe get like a good first overall pick like Patrice Bergeron. And the last and final comment is from Ryan Sharkey. He says, I suggest re-signing Timonen and Scratchins for sure. The others can probably walk, except maybe Fitzgerald since he is cheap. And yeah, I am planning to re-sign Timonen and Scratchins for sure, and also maybe Tom Fitzgerald. Timonen especially, just because even though technically not re-signing him would make us worse on defense, I just really think Kimmo Timonen is the guy that needs to be here for at least 3 more years. He's only 27. He's definitely our best defenseman by a long shot, so it would make sense to hold on to him even if we're not trying to contend. Also, Carlos Scratchins will probably hold on to, but like Matthias Tiemander, for example, Craig Miller, Richard Lintner, we'll probably let go of a lot of those type of guys just so we can kind of see what else is out there in free agency. And then we have to make decisions on what we are going to do in terms of trading-wise this offseason, because I think Thomas Vokuna, if we wanted to trade him, we could, but I'd need to be able to see what I could get for him in terms of future picks, because if I can't get like maybe like a future second round pick for 2003, I don't really know if it's really worth it. In terms of other players I would maybe move on from this offseason, we know that you guys were mentioning before Andreas Johansson, so I think he's definitely one guy I'd move away, especially with the emergence of Ladislav Nagy and Scott Hartnell. So I think we'll definitely trade away Johansson at the draft. Scott Walker's an interesting one. I could trade him away, but we did also just lock him up recently. He is up to an 88, and based on statistical growth, I think he'll come crashing back down the season, but never know. Steve Sullivan, I almost said Sean Sullivan for no reason. Steve Sullivan is pretty good, and I would rather hold on to him than Scott Walker. And then in terms of centers, I want Greg Johnson to probably like retire here or win a Stanley Cup first, but obviously him being up to an 88 is making this team a little bit more deeper. We have David Legwand, who obviously will be here next season, same with Archipov for sure. So this team is definitely going to look a little bit different next year, so it'll be interesting to see who's still on the roster, which more than likely a lot of these younger kind of guys are, but some of the older guys are going to start to get winged out a little bit. So anyways, there is that. Let's get into the 2002 draft and see what we could do in terms of trading away Andreas Johansson. And then I'll see if we can maybe get some assets for some of those other guys. If I don't want to trade those other guys, so be it. But we have a lot of picks in this year's draft, so I'll probably end up trading some of my current picks for next year's picks. Because I do really like Mark Giordano as our first round pick here at 23rd. As for like second round picks and stuff like that, there's guys like Johnny Boychuk, which aren't bad, but we do have a lot of picks in this draft. So what I'm probably going to lean towards doing is maybe packaging up all my 5th round picks almost, or 2 of my 5th round picks, 2 of my 4ths, trying to move them for a late 3rd round pick, then moving basically all 3 of my 3rd rounders for a high up second, maybe even a 1st round pick, probably a high up second. And I can package basically our 2 seconds to get maybe a 1st round pick for next year, something like that. I'm going to try and work some magic, and yeah, we'll probably definitely take Mark Giordano, but with the other selections, I don't really know if I want to take much players in this draft class, because it's really not the best draft class. Because you can see like Cam Jansen's supposed to be as a 3rd rounder, Patrick Thorson, Ryan Craig, like those guys were like fringe NHLers / bottom 6 forwards, so I think obviously trying to trade some of those 3rd round picks would make sense as well, even though we technically need more prospects at the moment. So let's get into this draft and see what magic we could whip up. Hopefully we could get ourselves a future first for next year, but if we can't, hopefully we get at least some high up seconds for next year, because that would be good too. So let's jump on in and see what we end up able to do here. So we're going to first look at what we could get for Andreas Johansson. Like, hopefully we could get something decent for Johansson here, because that would help us out a lot. He looks like he has good value too, so we should be able to get something good. Ooh, we can get a 1st rounder for this year, which I don't want, but it's pretty good. We could actually get some really solid stuff already, like RJ Umberger, Rafi Torres. Martin Biron's even kind of interesting, but I don't need a goalie. Yeah, a lot of teams are willing to move their 1st round pick in this year's draft, but I'm not too sure about future firsts. Francois Beauchemin's even a really solid option from the Montreal Canadiens. I don't think I want to trade him for current prospects, though. I'd prefer to maybe be for a 1st round pick next year. But I don't know if any teams are willing to do that. What team do I think will not be good next year? Colorado and Anaheim are probably still going to be good. That's Kevin Bieksa. It's funny, Kevin Bieksa. The Edmonton Oilers might be willing to trade next year's first. Let's see if we could trade Johansson to Edmonton. Do you have the next year's first on the block? Probably not, right? You have 9th overall this year, so this would be a major risk for them to trade next year's first. But also Johansson could help them make the playoffs randomly out of nowhere too. So this might be able to work. Based on the trade values right now, what I'm seeing is it actually looks okay. So we might be able to snag up a first-round pick for next year in 2003 from the Edmonton Oilers in exchange for Andreas Johansson. And Andreas Johansson's kind of worth that first-round pick in a sense based on this season lately, because 64 points, 56 points with us the year before. He's been getting better every year and also showed up well in the playoffs. So let's see if we could get a first-round pick for next year for Johansson straight up. If not, we could always add one of our later picks. It doesn't really matter too much. And that's accepted. So we got ourselves a first-round pick in 2003 to add to our current one, and Andreas Johansson heads off to the Edmonton Oilers. So there is our first trade. I don't know if I'll make any other trades in this episode because you guys were saying potentially to run DiPietro as a starter next year. We could run DiPietro and Mason hypothetically in the NHL if I was to trade Thomas Vokoun, but I don't really know if I want to trade Vokoun yet or not. Lassik's probably getting let go of, which means Dan Ellis would be in the AHL. We have Mason already signed for one more year, and then Sedin is getting close to the AHL as well. What could I get for Vokoun out of curiosity? 4th and a 7th, yeah, see, that's not really worth it. Keith Carney's also not worth it because I'm not trying to be a good team right now. But we're basically only getting offered 4th and 7th round picks for a goalie that is a legit starter / backup. Dennis Seidenberg's not bad, but he's a high 6D. Chris Kelly, Tomo Rutu. Like, there's some okay prospects, but I don't think I'm going to move Vokoun here. Just doesn't make sense, as the Atlanta Thrashers have taken the center medium elite Lorenzo Jenner. The generated guy. So there is Lorenzo Jenner in case you guys wanted to see him. Let's try and make our other trades here by moving some picks now. And trying to move up and getting more picks for next year's draft. Now that we have 2 first rounders for next year, we maybe don't need to, but at the same time, I don't really need all these like 5th round picks and stuff. So if I trade all these 5ths except for our own, actually. So these 2 5ths and these 2 4ths. Can I get ourselves a 3rd round pick? Oh yeah, of course it doesn't find any trades. Let's just make an offer trade thing and see what we could whip up here. Hopefully we can whip up something good. Make ourselves a nice trade to move up all the way from like 5th round picks to 1st round pick. It might be a little bit unrealistic, but at the same time, I think getting rid of all these excess picks is something I want to do because this year's draft, like I said, isn't really that great. So if we trade away 2 5ths and 2 4ths, we should be able to get ourselves a 3rd round pick from one of these teams, I would assume. Who wants to give up a 3rd rounder for this year? Wow, okay, that has like barely any value. I might even be able to get higher than a 3rd round pick. Okay, so Anaheim doesn't have a 2nd rounder. Does any team have a 2nd rounder on the block? Wow, everybody's like trading their 3rds and 2nds in this universe. Wow, Atlanta's stacking up on draft picks, but obviously, they do have Calgary's 3rd round pick. But yeah, that still has way less value than all my current picks. So if I took like, can I even take a 2nd rounder? I might be able to get a 2nd round pick for 2 4ths and 2 5ths, which sounds dumb. But let me see if this works. I'm curious on how this trade logic works, because if it is that easy to trade up, that's ridiculous. Let's see. Rejected. Sweeten the value just a touch. Okay. Well, I could throw in my my 7th round selection as well. And we get ourselves a 2nd rounder. We're giving up a lot of picks just to move up, but I think it's worth it. We're giving Atlanta a ton of trash for a 2nd rounder. And now we have cleared up our picks a lot. We have still 2 3rds, 2 2nds in this draft, and a 5th. I don't necessarily need these 3rds and 2nds. So if I traded away these 3rds and 2nds for a future 1st, I probably could get like a good amount of value just for these. Yeah, like look at the amount of trade value for just all that. I think I might just be able to finesse this game into giving me another 1st round pick for next year. I know this is incredibly unrealistic, but it is what it is. as Rick Nash is now a member of the Tampa Bay Lightning. Interesting. I don't know how I feel about Rick Nash being in Tampa, but is what it is. Let's see if we could finesse ourselves a first rounder for next year just by moving all of our crap picks that we don't need. I mean, some of these guys might be able to be decent for these teams that they're drafting with them, but I'd rather just draft Mark Giordano in this draft and then nobody really else. So we'll probably hold on to our 5th rounder, though. So anybody interested in all that? Arizona was... Is Arizona going to be good next year? They do have Kovalev and such on the block, so they're probably struggling a bit, but I don't know for sure. Vancouver was definitely struggling, but I don't think I can make a trade with Vancouver for a future first. They've been dreadful in the series. Tampa's definitely been not great either, but they aren't going to want to give me a first-round pick, right? I don't know if it would be that easy as well. I might have to add more to this, but that would be insane because Tampa's not very great, I'm pretty sure. And they would give me literally their first-round pick for 2003 for taking 2 seconds this year and 2/3 this year. Well, let's see if this works. If this works, I'm probably cheating the system quite a bit, and you guys might not like this, but we'll see if this works. And rejected. Woefully insufficient. Okay, at least that's a little bit more accurate. I was expecting that. But is there any team that would willing to give me that first round pick? Because some of these teams are going to definitely have first rounders that are not as valuable. Like the St. Louis Blues might be willing to get it done. Yeah, let's try with St. Louis. Sweeten the value just a touch. See, with them, it's okay because they're more of a team that's kind of contending, I think. Sweeten the value just a touch. What if I gave you my 5th rounder for this year as well? So that way we're only having 1 pick in this year's draft, and we get ourselves the first for next year and stuff. So I know I'm getting rid of a load of shit basically on trades, but let's see if I could get that first. There we go. We get ourselves the first for next year again, and we only have 1 pick in this year's draft now, but we do have 3 picks in 2003, which means maybe we get Bergeron, maybe we get Brent Burns, maybe we get like all these good players. So that was quite the amount of stuff. Look at it. Also in 2003, we also have 2 seconds. We also have 3/3, a 4/5, a 6, and a 7th. So we're stacking up for that 2003 draft. We only have 1 pick this year, but I think it was worth what we did. So that's going to be our trades for this episode. Finessing ourselves some first-round picks. Hopefully, they end up being decent players, and hopefully they end up being lottery picks. But regardless, with the 2003 draft, we should be able to get somebody good with those first-round selections, especially. So, let's see. The Rangers are going to draft Duncan Keith. So there goes Duncan Keith to the Rangers. Will it be interesting to see if he develops well? Because obviously, he's wearing number 2 like Brian Leach. So obviously, that number in real life would probably not be able to be in use, but it is what it is. All right, let's send to our pick at 23rd, and we should be able to draft Mark Giordano. But it'll be interesting to see what the rest of these teams do in terms of the draft. But I only wanted to have the 1 selection because Mark Giordano is obviously a great piece for this team's future on defense. And there he is. Yeah, he's supposed to go all the way in the middle of the 2nd round. So I could even trade back if I really wanted to, but I don't think I really want to do that after I finesse myself some first-round picks. So Mark Giordano, welcome to the Nashville Predators. 64 overall low lead. So that's what I wanted. Just Mark Giordano for the prospect pool. He won't get signed right away, but hopefully develops into being a good puck-moving defenseman that could also play great defensively. So there is Mark Giordano. We will now simulate through the rest of this draft and see what the AI grabs and all that stuff. But I only wanted that 1 pick. So Mark Giordano, the only selection for us in 2002, but we have a ton of selections in next year's draft, which is really exciting. So let's take a look at where players went that I made in this. So I will remove my face so you guys can see everybody in the first round and all that. So in terms of players, we saw Rick Nash and Duncan Keith already. But Pierre-Marc Bouchard off to the St. Louis Blues. Jay Bouwmeester off to Pittsburgh. Alex Semin going to the Carolina Hurricanes a little bit early. Joffrey Lupul heads to the Edmonton Oilers, like he obviously got dealt from in 2006, I think it was around. Valtteri Filppula to the LA Kings. Chris Higgins to Buffalo. Alex Steen to Phoenix. Trevor Daley to Ottawa. We're just missing out on the Dallas Stars, unfortunately. That would be Ray Whitney headed to the Washington Capitals, Yoni Pitkin to Toronto, Yuri Hudler to Chicago, Franz Nielsen to Detroit a little bit early, James Wisniewski to the New York Islanders. So Franz Nielsen almost actually went to the Islanders, which is kind of cool. Dennis Weidman to the Flyers, Keith Ballard to Colorado, which I feel like, no, he didn't play in Colorado's system at all. Did he? No, I don't think so. I know he was originally drafted by like the Buffalo Sabres though. Paul Ranger to Anaheim. We obviously took Giordano. Steve Eminger to Montreal. Greg Campbell to San Jose. Matt Stajan to New Jersey. Sean Bergenheim to Calgary a little bit earlier than Florida. And then Scott Upshall to the Florida Panthers, which he actually played with in, I think, for like a little bit. Fleischman to Tampa Bay. Babchuk to Atlanta. Daniel Paille to Vancouver, as is Boyd Gordon, who went there, I think, a little bit earlier, because I think Boyd Gordon played for Vancouver, didn't he? Briefly. Eric Christensen to the Pittsburgh Penguins, exactly like he should. Max Talbot goes to Atlanta. Ryan Shannon to Pittsburgh. Peter Pruka to Edmonton. Ville Lano to Vancouver. Tom Gilbert to Edmonton, as he should. That's cool. Dennis Gerbeshkov to the Ottawa Senators. Johnny Boychuk to Calgary. Matt Green to the Edmonton Oilers a little bit early. Actually, right on time, I should say. Ole Christian Tollefson to the Pittsburgh Penguins. What else you got here? Matt Jones going to Calgary. Ian White to St. Louis. Aaron Rome to Montreal. Jonathan Erickson to Ottawa. Andre Benoit to Ottawa quite a bit early. Kari Lettinen goes to Calgary late in the second round. And Joachim Lindstrom going to Florida. Third round wise, Cam Ward goes to the Tampa Bay Lightning. Damn, that's a really good pickup for Tampa Bay. Eric Nystrom to Pittsburgh. Joey Crabb to Washington, which I think he actually played there at one point. Antti Niemi to the Pittsburgh Penguins, which he actually played for briefly. Peter Harold to the St. Louis Blues. I think that's Peter Harold at least. What else we got here? Making sure I get all these names written out here. Josh Harding to Washington. That Johansson guy, I think, is one guy I made as well. He goes to St. Louis. Ryan Craig to Pittsburgh a bit early. Patrick Thornton to the Islanders. Ben Eager to the Flyers. Love to see that. Obviously, he played for the Flyers for 1 point. Cam Jansen to the Colorado Avalanche. DJ King to the Anaheim Ducks. Tim Brent to St. Louis. Patrick Dwyer to Montreal, which I think he played for. Adam Burish to San Jose. Ryan Carter to the New Jersey Devils a little bit early. Steven Gionta to Atlanta. And Jesse Winchester to Calgary. Fourth round wise, Nathan Oyster going to the Atlanta Thrashers, as he should. That's pretty cool. Is that the McLean I made? I don't think it is. Jeff Deloria goes to the Pittsburgh Penguins. Jason Chimera to Boston. What else we got here? Actually, Jason Chimera was already in this build, so that must be a generated Chimera. Derek Meach to Atlanta. Obviously, he played in Winnipeg, I think, at one point, if I'm not mistaken. What else we got here? Anybody else? That's not Clark Wilm. That's definitely not, because he was already in this build. Curtis McElhinney to Philadelphia. Just making sure I read out all the names that I need to. Just got to double check. Hanyu Toivonen also to Atlanta. Anybody else move on here? There's so many generated names that I almost think that they're real players too. That's definitely not Tuukka Rask. I could tell you that much. What else we got here? Jan Stastny to Vancouver, I think that is his draft class. Anybody else, though? Just got to make sure. Oh, Jakob Klepis to Florida. Don't want to forget about him. Matt Foy to the Rangers. Chris Connor to the Pittsburgh Penguins. A little bit early. Love to see it. Mark Popovic, I think that is, to LA. I believe that's him. Brandon Segal to Arizona, or Phoenix, I should say. Anybody else? Colin Stewart to Washington. Stefan Cronwall might have went to Toronto like he actually did, which is cool. That's not Nick Spaulding, because Nick Spaulding wasn't in this draft class. Nate Gannon going to the Ducks a bit early. Tim Conboy to Atlanta as well. And that's that. So a little bit confusing with all these generated guys as well, but I think I read out everybody that was supposed to go in this draft class. But there we go. All right, so now let's get to the resign stage. We are not going to resign all these coaches because you guys want me to maybe change up the coaching staff to make it trash. We are going to probably bring back most of these scouts for now, but I might replace some of them if there is better options out there. So let's resign these current ones for now. It'll be interesting to see how bad our team is next year, and if we're able to get the prize of Patrice Bergeron. If we don't, there is a lot of other good players, though. Like, we might be able to get, like, Nathan Horton, for example. Like, some good top 6 forwards or top 4 defenders. Like, there's a lot of good players in the class. Also, Brent Burns in this is a forward, so if we do draft ourselves some forwards in this upcoming draft in a year, Brent Burns could actually play offensively. But I would probably prefer to go with a lot of defensemen. But I guess it depends on what goes early and what doesn't. All right, resign stage time. Let's see what we got resign-wise. What we get. So let's start off with the RFAs and probably qualify a good chunk of these guys, at least the young guys in the AHL. So let's just qualify them all. Some of these guys are going to want 2A deals, but let's just qualify them for now here, because most of them are not the best. Marian Cesar is a fringe NHLer. He wants a 2-way deal as well, but we're just going to qualify him. Arkhipov is already 23. He wants a 2-way deal as well. Let's just qualify him. David Legwand's the only RFA that's actually going to probably want to get paid. We are going to let go of Vlasic to free up some roster space. But Legwand. What do I want to do with Legwand? Looks like he's not going to develop much based on his contract demand. I don't know if I should lock him up already. Because how has he been with us so far? I feel like he's been okay, right? 44 points from 32, 24 the year before. He's been getting better every year. Didn't really do too much in the playoffs, but we could lock him up on a nice little 5-year deal if we want to. You know what? I'm going to give him a 5-year deal, I think, just already. I know it's a little bit early to do that, but obviously he'll have the trade value that we can move him. His contract isn't too bad either. So I am going to try and finesse him on a 85% trick contract. But I could even just give him what he wants because it's not really that bad. I might be able to get him for 1.91, somewhere around this. So 1925. We'll see if he accepts that. And then also UFA-wise, let's go to the bottom of this list. Wow, we have a lot of trash. We also have a sign like Nathan Robinson this year and Travis Moen and Brooks Orpik. So we are going to have to make some changes to the AHL club, which is okay. So yeah, let's sign Robinson because he's already 65 at 20. That's just not bad. I am going to let go of Tobler. He's not really anything anyways. Thomas Kopecky is going to get his ELC. He's up to a 67 at 20, which is not too bad considering I believe he started as a 58. Travis Moen's going to get his ELC as well. Same with Brooks Orpik. Got to get a lot of those guys into the system. Jared Smithson's going to be signed. And that means we're going to let go of Patrick Fisher for now. Paul Healy. Ramsey. Abid's going to get his ELC. Patrick Cote is gone. Mike Watt is only 26. He's not bad. I'll sign him up, sure. But I'm going to let go of, like, Craig Miller. You know, he's only 25. Richard Lintner, even though he's only 25. Sebastian Bordelot, I'm going to let go of. Rob Valachevic, I'm going to let go of for now. We're going to basically clean houses except for a few guys. And then all of these guys except for Tamander are going to actually get signed. So these 3 guys will get signed, but everybody else is going to be let go of because we are changing this team up a lot. This is a big offseason for us. What is Straston's wanting? $3 million bucks. That's a lot. He only wants 2 years, though. So I think I'm okay with giving him a 2-year deal because we could easily trade him away if we really need to. So let's just give him what he's asking for at this point. Tom Fitzgerald, yeah, he's really cheap. You guys are right. So maybe I'll hold on to him and then flip him at the deadline if we're not contending, which we probably shouldn't be. So let's give him a 1-year deal. And then Kimmo Timonen's the big one. Wow, 6-year deal at 8.625. What did he do for us this year again? 38 points. He is getting better technically every year, but he is not very healthy. He does score a good amount of goals from the point. I could give him a 6-year deal and then probably flip him at some point. So, you know what? We're just going to give him what he's wanting. I should be able to move that contract. And then Dan Ellis will get his ELC as well for the AHL. So a lot of new faces will be in the minors next season. Okay, so let's advance today and see if we get everybody signed up that we gave contracts to. Hopefully we do. Hopefully some people actually still want to come back after we let go of all those guys on our roster. Because hopefully we don't have a morale crisis, because that wouldn't be good. Any rejections? Kimmo Timonen rejected. And everybody else is good. Okay. So, Chemo, we need to talk here, buddy. You rejected 6 years at 8.625, huh? I don't want to overpay too much on him. 6 years will take him till he's 33. What if I gave you only a little bit more? I don't want to overpay on you too much. I want to be able to still move your contract if I need to. So let's see, will he accept 8.7? He's going to reject it. I want to win, and I don't think this team's in any position to win anytime soon. There's a chance I might have to let him go to free agency and then try and negotiate afterwards. But he's an 86 overall, so I would probably rather hold on to him. So I'm prepared to give him $9 million for now, just to hold on to him for now. And then we can decide what we want to do with him in 3 years or 1 year or 2 years, something like that. So will he accept $9 million? I didn't even realize we had a scout named Bob Lego, and that's kind of funny. And he rejected it apparently. What if I give you a short-term deal? I know you're trying to get some security, but what if I gave you a 2-year deal, and that way you can maybe test the free agent market again in the next few years? What if I did 2 years? Because then you could test the free agent market soon, and he's still rejecting that. Man, Chemo is being a little bit difficult here to deal with. Let me give you 9.25. Since we're doing you short-term instead of long-term, let's do 2 years at 9.25. And like I said, maybe after 1 season we decide to flip him away. And he's still rejecting. Oh my goodness. Some of the RFAs are accepting, which is good. But Chemo is definitely being a bit of a problem here. If I knew it was going to be this tough to re-sign him, I probably would have traded him at the draft. Or not at the draft, I guess. I would have traded him last season. 9.5 for 2 years. But like I said, we might have to flip him very soon. Okay, there we go. We got him for a 9.5 for 2 years, which is kind of an expensive contract, but at least he's signed for 2 years. But I think we might have to think about trading him away this season or the season afterwards, because $9.5 million is kind of expensive. I don't know if he's one of the highest paid defenders in the league. We could actually take a look at that and see in this episode as well. So first, let's take a look at the player search scene and just to see if he's one of the highest paid defenders, because if he is, maybe we want to think about actually flipping him, not this episode, but maybe in the next few episodes. Like, he's getting paid more than currently than Oleg Tverdovsky, who's almost won Norris's. He's getting paid more than Nick Lidstrom. He's also just under Chris Pronger, just under Rob Blake, and then Sergei Zubov's on a different planet apparently. But yeah, he is getting paid a lot more than I anticipated, so we might have to think about moving on from Chemo a little bit sooner than we actually anticipated. So I think what we need to do is, in 2003, in the draft, we need to look at defenders and find ones that could replace Chemo, for sure. So we'll leave that. Let's also go to our contracts here, because I forgot to give Jason Spezza his ELC, so I'll give him that, because you guys want him in the NHL next year. So he'll get signed. These other guys are not going to get signed yet, but they will eventually. Let me just take a look at Spezza here. Yeah, okay. Number 23. Yeah, we're going to have to change that so his number's actually accurate. Okay, that's good. Okay, that's good. So what do we need in terms of free agency? That's something I actually don't know what we need at the moment. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's not include Klassen for now. We got 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 with E-Rat included. And then we can potentially use somebody like, not necessarily a bead. We could use a bead in Klassen as depth. It's not opposed to it. So we might actually have enough forwards. But are we too good of a forward core? Maybe. We might have to think about Scott Walker and such like that, because we might over-simulate still a little bit. Unless our coaches are really trash, right? So defensively, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 with Hutchinson included. So technically, we could use Hutchinson as a 7th defender or play him in the AHL. But we probably want to think about signing ourselves a top 6 defender and a depth defenseman, so we could send Hutchinson back to the minors to play with like Brooks Orpik. And then goaltending wise, Vokun and DiPietro at the moment, so we don't need a goalie. We still have Chris Mason. Mason and Ellis will probably play in the AHL, I guess. Yeah, we don't really need to sign too much, but we definitely should sign some stuff this next episode. But let's take a look first at what is available in terms of free agency, and then we'll take a look at the trading block. And yeah, maybe we'll say what Kimmo Timonen could fetch us via trade, because I am curious on that. So let's see what we got in terms of free agency. Ooh, Luongo is an RFA. That's interesting. But in terms of UFA goalies, not that we need goalies, Mika Kiprusoff and Evgeny Nabokov both testing free agency. Will be interesting to see where both those guys go, as does Jose Theodore. So some younger goalies out there, but obviously not ones that we need. Eddie the Eagles testing free agency. Same with Byron Defoe. All right. So a good chunk of goalies in free agency, but like I said, we don't need any, so that's okay, at least at the moment. From a defensive standpoint, we could use a top 6 defenseman. And there's some pretty good defenders out there, like Lubomir Visnovsky, but I don't really want to make our defense too good, because or else we will make the playoffs somehow. But if we're looking for like actual like top 6 defenders, we could always bring back like Tamander if we want to. We could bring in somebody like Andreas Lilia, Daniel Charnquist, Aaron Ward. There's a lot of top 6 options out there, so. And also we could sign some of these guys as depth defenders too, like Maxim Galanov, or even worse than that. Maybe even we can go for somebody like Wade Belak, because why not? So there's defenders. In terms of forwards, not that we really need too much either. The best right winger is Scott Young. There's also Adam Deadmarsh, Ulf Dahlin, Theo Fleury has interest from 4 teams. We'll take a look at what those guys have interest from as well, because I am kind of interested to see who has interest in who. Fernando Pisani, in case we want to win ourselves or get ourselves to a Stanley Cup final. Yeah. Left wing wise, what do we got? Patrick Elias is testing free agency. That's insane. How did New Jersey not sign him? They have all the cap space in the world because there's no salary cap yet. But that's a pretty big loss for the New Jersey Devils. He's only 26 years old. If we wanted to bring in somebody to help us out right now, that would be the type of guy. But Patrick Elias, on the other hand, is a left winger, which we already have Hartnell, we already have Nagy. And Patrick Elias probably wants to go to a cup contender. I don't remember if New Jersey's already won a Stanley Cup in this, but that is actually kind of insane that they're already letting him go at 26 years old. Like, the next closest in terms of overall is Martin Jelena. And then it's Thomas Holmstrom. Yeah, Patrick Elias is insanely good. He only has 1 team interested at the moment, so maybe he goes back to New Jersey, but damn. What else we got here? Just some more kind of depth options, okay. But if you guys see anybody interesting for me to sign, let me know. And maybe I'll bring them in, like Steve Correa for the memes. In terms of centers, Matt Sundin testing free agency is actually insane as well. Wow. Was not expecting Sundin to become a free agent already at this point, but he is. Sean Van Allen is the next best, so there's some decent... Oh, Daniel Briere too. Daniel Briere, huh? Doug Gilmour, who's already 39 years old. Alex Dagg is there for the memes. Okay, let's go to entire free agent list here and see who has interest from who. So Theo Fleury is the most interested player apparently right now, with 4 teams interested. Chicago, Tampa, San Jose, and Philly are interested. Obviously, he did play in Chicago in real life. Lubomir Visnovsky has interest from 3 teams, those being the Rangers, the Devils, and the Florida Panthers. All right. Martin Jelena, 3 teams are interested. Washington, Buffalo, and Toronto. Sean Van Allen has interest from 2 teams, those being Atlanta and Detroit. Matthias Oland is also testing free agency. I didn't even realize that. 25 years old, obviously he was dealt to Carolina. St. Louis and LA are interested. Ruslan Saleh has interest from 2 teams, Dallas and Ottawa. Dave Scatchard has interest from 2 teams, Pittsburgh and Phoenix. Who's interested in Matt Sundin? This is going to be an interesting one. Montreal? Oh no. If he signs in Montreal, Leaf fans are literally going to kill me. Really kill me completely. Like, Montreal would be the worst place for Matt Sundin to sign. Mats, don't do it. Don't do it, man. Like, you've been having some great numbers in Toronto. Don't sign in Montreal. His playoff numbers have been trash, though. 1 goal in 7 games after 80 points in the regular season. Damn. But if he signs in Montreal, I can guarantee there's going to be some Toronto fans that are going to be like, what the hell is this, man? But Patrick Elias, who is he of interest from? Edmonton. Edmonton. Okay. Scott Young. Interest from the Anaheim Ducks. Or Mighty Ducks, I should say. Adrian Aucoin. Interest from the Boston Bruins. Jyrki Lumme, who's 35. Interest from the Vancouver Canucks, where he actually started his NHL career, so that's kind of neat. Actually, he didn't start his NHL career there. He started in Montreal, I think, but he did play in Vancouver. Darby Hendrickson has interest from one team. That is the Carolina Hurricanes, who like all the ex-Vancouver Canucks, apparently. And that's the only ones with interest. Goalie-wise, no interest on any goalies at the moment. All right. Let's take a look at the trading block now and see what is available. What is available in terms of the block? Any interesting names? Some prospects like Rafi Torres. Some good players in Phoenix. Atlanta has nothing. Todd Warner, Mike Knuble. We're not trying to make ourselves good right now, though, too. So, I honestly don't think I would be making more trades in the next episode unless you guys want me to offload, like, Scott Walker. Because he's too good. You could trade him to Carolina or something like that. Like, is our team bad enough to not win games? Dallas wants to offload some good players, apparently. Detroit as well. So maybe some of those mighty teams have fallen a little bit. Edmonton wants to offload some good players, including Andreas Johansson, who we literally just traded there. You think they wouldn't have traded me a first-round pick if they were going to trade away Johansson that fast? Because I don't think they're going to be able to get a first-round pick back for him now. But who knows? New Jersey. A lot of it's just prospects on the block, which is okay. Manny Fernandez on the block is kind of intriguing, but don't really need goalies. Patrick Lalime is also on the block because he got signed to a 5-year deal. Ottawa, Donald Odette. Philadelphia, Robert Lang. Some other good veterans. Okay. Pittsburgh, Steve Passmore. San Jose, not really anything other than Nikos Dimitrakos. Nothing really there. Gary Suter. Some older guys in Toronto. Looks like Toronto's blowing it up a bit. Vancouver. Andrew Castles. Rod Brindamore still on the block. Yeah, Vancouver's still offloading pieces. Washington wants to get rid of Nick Alishin. Adam Oates as well. Damn. Adam Oates might get dealt at the deadline. Some interesting players on the block for sure. And final thing, let's go to the coaching staff here and take a look at some coaches, because obviously we're not going to try and sign some good coaches this offseason. We're going to try and bring in the worst ones possible because you guys want me to tank as much as possible. So we would be looking at, in terms of bad coaches, let's actually just go NHL head coach. There's not that much available for free agent coaches. That's kind of weird. Usually I thought there was a much bigger pool. I guess we could assign some associates that are not that good. Most of them actually have good ratings, though. Like, we'd have to sign some of these C coaches and make them head coaches. And that's not Roberto Luongo, so you guys know, too, because he's not retired yet. Yeah, the coaching pool is actually better than expected, unless we sign all these AHL associates as NHL coaches. Our goalie coaches, too. It's interesting. Alright. Anything else we wanted to take a look at before we end this episode? Let's actually take a look and see if there's any other trades at the draft, because I didn't think I did that. So, want to take a look and see if there's any other trades. So there was R2 trades, obviously getting some picks, and that was it. Or R3 trades, I should say. So nobody made a trade at the draft other than us. That's okay. That is okay. So anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this episode of our Nashville Predators Throwback 2000 franchise mode. So in next episode, we'll take it to free agency. We might sign a couple of depth pieces / top 6 options just to fill out our roster a little bit. And it'll be interesting to see what ends up happening with these free agents that are available this offseason, because I'm very interested to see if like Sundin signs with the Canadiens, if Patrick Elias doesn't go back to New Jersey, because there's some really good free agent options out there, so it'll be interesting to see what the league is looking like going into next season. Obviously, next season is 2002-03, so probably after the 2003-04 season, so going into the lockout, maybe that's when we'll actually take a look at the rosters across the entire league again and see how every team is changing based on the first 5 years of this franchise mode. So let me know down below, and I'll see you guys next time.